ناخذ الريفيجن بارت 1. بس خليني أشوف الشات ما فتح عندي هنا. يس اليوم راح يكون فيها محاضرة من ضمن اللي موجود عندكم بالكالندر. إذا تشوفوا بالLMS في يوم راح يكون موجود عندنا اللي هو المراجعة، تمام؟ فالمفروض كانت المراجعة الأسبوع اللي طاف، بس حنا أخذنا محاضرة على أساس أن هذا الأسبوع راح يكون يعني long weekend وراح تروح فيها وقت المحاضرة. بس قبل ما أكمل خليني بس أشغل الشيرينج. عذرا بس إني نستخدم جهاز ثاني. طيب الصوت والصورة واضحين؟ الصوت والصورة واضحين؟ أيوة تمام. طيب لما تدخلوا بالجدول اللي حق المادة راح تلاحظوا بالجدول أنه موزع. المفروض الأسبوع اللي طاف أنه هو يكون فيه مراجعة، وهذا الأسبوع فيه محاضرة، بس إحنا استبدلناها على أساس أن هذا الأسبوع ما راح يكون فيه لا لسه ما بدأت يا رغد. على أساس أن هذا الأسبوع راح يكون فيه اللونج ويكند، فاليوم راح ناخذ ساعتين من 4 إلى 6. عارفة أن البعض راح يقول عندي محاضرة، اللي عنده محاضرة ممكن يطلع، راح أخذ الحضور قبل نهاية الساعة الأولى دايركت. تمام. أتمنى أنكم شفتوا ال4 شيتس موجودة بالLMS وموجودة أيضا بالشيرينج فولدر اللي أرسلت لكم هو. فالشيت الأول راح يكون عبارة عن برمجة، إنك يعني كلها تكتب بروجرامز فيها الكلاسز وفيها التست. يعني هذه هي الكويستشنز اللي راح تكون موجودة، راح نرجع لها، بس راح نبدأ بالشيت 2 و3 و4 وبعد كذا راح نرجع إلى الشيت 1 إذا كان في وقت اليوم. لو ما مدانا اليوم نكملها راح ناخذ الشيت 1 مع اللاب الأسبوع اللي جاي إن شاء الله، لأن معلومات الشيتس الباقية information more. تمام. فخلينا اوكي تمام. في الشيت 2 نتكلم أكثره يعني more of it is going to cover the idea of dynamic binding. Okay, so I feel like it's important to review it fast. What's a dynamic binding mean? That means if you have a class, let's say it's C1 and it's inherited C2, C2 inherited C3, and so on until the most generous one, which is the object class, right? So if you call a method, let's call it a method 1. So Java virtual machines, the compiler is going to go to search for the methods starting from the first one. So it's going to start from C1. If it'll find the method 1, it is going to compile it. If it cannot find it, it's going to go to C2 and so on until it goes to the most generous one. For example, لما نستخدم two-string methods, if we don't implement our own two-string method, it is going to go to the parent and so on and so forth. If all of them didn't override toString methods, which is coming from an object, it's gonna to print toString from an object. تمام? Okay. So I just need you to remember this slide. This is from meeting 5, slide 31. It has an important concept that we're going to cover today in sheet 2. So here we have the parent and the child. If you would like to access, I need you to like focus with me on that in the third one. Actually, the first one, the first case, you creating a name reference and a data object. So this is a name reference, parent, and an object type. Similarly, they having similar things, right? This is the first case. The child and a child. Let's say both of them. I'm gonna to say it's the first case. The second case, you have a reference name different than an object type, where an object type is the child. Okay, so let's see the first case, which was the normal one, and then we will focus the most important one, and it's little maybe confusing for some of you. So for example, a parent here, P, is gonna to access the methods. Let me say 1 and 2. It is gonna to access in method 1 or 2, a P. When we create an object, an instance object called P, it is gonna to call, if it's called a method, is gonna to access in methods 1 or 2. Okay, only Ragad? Good. Okay, so it's gonna to access in method 1 because it's with the type parents, so it's gonna to go to the parent. The second one, if we're creating an instance object C with a type object type child and a reference is child, if el C invoked in method is gonna to access in method 1 or 2. Okay, Lujain. Who's else? Okay. Bushra, Qadir, who's else? All of you thinks we're gonna to access method 2, which is right. So far, so good? Okay. Now we will see the one that's, it's little maybe confusing. So we creating an instance object K, which is have the name reference parent, but the object type is a child. So if this K would like to access a method, it is gonna to access the method 1 or 2. It has a name reference as parent. And the object, it is gonna to be child, the object type. So it's gonna to access 2. Okay, so far so good? Okay, so let's assume I have another method called method 2. Good? Can I say K dot method 2? It is legal or illegal? K, which is K, is an instance object with a reference name parent and object types different, which is an object. Can I access a method 2, which is inside a child? It is legal or illegal? Legal or illegal? Okay, Lujain think it's legal. Sorry guys, all your answer is wrong. It's illegal. Okay, So it's illegal. Now, if you would like to know, so this is why I told you need to focus on this point. So if I create an instance object K with the reference name parent, that means the K can access only the methods here inside the parent class. It is cannot access the child class. But sorry, teacher, you just said we're gonna to access the method from the child in this case, right? لسه تتذكروا احنا قلنا ان الميثودز راح نعمل access من الchild اللي راح تكون موجودة في الchild. Okay, so this is the tricky point. Sorry, it's just disconnected from my site. Okay, so let's just get back to where we were. Okay. لا في صورة الآن، في صوت وصورة ولا لا؟ عفوا بس فصل عندي اوكي ممتاز. طيب خلينا نكمل. فالفكرة، هل هنا الفكرة واضحة ولا لا؟ المثال اللي ذكرته أنا لما يكون عندك parent k equal to new child اللي معمول له highlight بالأزرق هنا. طيب الآن لما يكون عندنا خليني أشرح لكم هي مرة ثانية. يعني أنت لما تعرف اللي هي الريفرنس نيم والأوبجكت تايب الريفرنس نيم هي هذه. يعني أعملها highlight. أوكي خلينا نمسح اللي قبل ونستخدم البارنت. لما يكون الريفرنس نيم اللي هنا مثلا البارنت والأوبجكت تايب بارنت، احنا عارفين راح نحاول نوجد الميثود هل هي موجودة ولا لا داخل كلاس البارنت. ممتاز. لما يكون عندنا التشايلد وتشايلد راح نبحث أيضا عنه بالتشايلد، لو ما لقيناه راح نطلع one level up ونبحث عنه في البارنت. So far so good. هذه بالكيسز النورمال لما يكون الريفرنسز نيم مع الأوبجكت تايب هي نفسها. ممتاز. اللي ممكن ان هي يكون فيها شويه خربطه لما يكون عندنا الريفرنس نيم مثلا عندنا هنا البارنت وعندنا الاوبجكت تايب نادينا على الكونستراكتور من النوع التشايلد. الان in this case الكي تقدر تعمل اكسس فقط الى الميثود اللي موجوده داخل البارنت اللي هي الريفرنس نيم. واضح؟ يعني لو انا عندي ميثود هنا method 2 أو method 5 method 3 method 4 كلها هذه الكي ما تقدر تعمل لها access. طيب الآن راح ممكن طالب يسأل أو طالبة تسأل طيب حنا لسه عملنا access هنا للميثود عملت access إلى اللي موجودة بالchild. تمام. هنا النقطة المهمة. الآن حنا ما نقدر نعمل access إلى الميثودز اللي موجودة بالchild، نقدر فقط نعمل access إلى الميثودز اللي موجودة بالparent لأن الريفرنس نيم عبارة عن الparent. ولكن متى ما كان في ميثود لها override داخل الchild مثل الكيس اللي عندنا هنا راح نعمل access إلى الميثودز اللي موجودة بالchild. تمام؟ clear؟ وضحت الآن ولا لسه؟ خلينا نشوف أمثلة. الشيت 2 مليان أمثلة على نفس الموضوع. تمام؟ اللي حاب if you would like to get more information about this like الريفرنس variable البارت الأول هنا reference variable وبعد كذا data type. if you would like to read more about it just go to chapter 14 point 5 page 651. okay, no this is unacceptable بتال. okay, so let's try to answer this one. okay, so now I have a method or I have a class A and class B where class B is extended from class A. good. So now I have method 1 and method 2 inside the class A and method 2 only inside class B. Okay, I need you to focus on couples of things here in this example. Whenever they are executed the output, how it is going to look like, try to make sure you read every line, every sentence, and make sure you read it correctly. For example, here, what they do, no البتال مش انه هو لو ما لقاه راح يروح للي تحته. هو لو لقاه وكان له override في الchild راح ياخده منه. لو ما لقاه اساسا بالريفرنسز النيم ريفرنسز في النهايه راح يكون illegal. فلو كان موجود بالchild ومش موجود بالparent ما تقدر تعمل له access. خلينا نشوف بتال هذا المثال ان شاء الله يكون واضح معك هنا. Okay, so for example here in method 1, you take a look to the print. They said just the print. They didn't said print len, which is mean a new line after you print it out. Okay, so now here, class A, method 1, and then they told you to put a tab. So it's not gonna to be new line. And one more thing here to focus on too, or to take a look to, is you see here this. طيب الصوت لسه فاصل الصوت. الصوت واضح ولا فصل؟ تمام، الصوت والصورة واضحين، ممتاز. الآن هنا النقطة الثانية اللي مهم إن احنا نركز عليها، إن لاحظوا إنه موجود عندنا this. راح نشوف كيف راح نتعامل مع this. So how we gonna to deal with this لما نعرف الريفرنسز name والobject type نفس الاسم أو لما يكونوا مختلفين. تمام؟ okay, so هنا عرفنا defined الobject instance A, الreference name والobject class similar. So now I need you to try to figure it out. When I say A method 1, what is gonna to print? ال A method 1 ايش راح تطبع لنا؟ Try to do it guys as fast as you can. Method 1 عوض من فين؟ Method 1 which method 1 and which method 2؟ لا تقولي مثلا يعني it's going to print class A class A method 1, that's it. Okay, class A method 1, class A method 2. Good job. ممتاز. هذه this is the right answer. So we're going to have class A method 1, and then we have this, which is this A, and it's going to go to method 2 and print class A method 2. Okay, then in class 2, it is going to print class A method 2. This is straightforward. Method 2 راح يروح إلى الميثود 2 اللي موجودة. Good. Then if we create an instance object P with a reference name P, okay, and then the object type is B. If I call a method 1 now, method 1 is not inside the class B. So what is going to go? It is going to go to the parent. هذه هي dynamic finding, right? فلما راح تروح إلى الميثود 1 inside the class A, it is going to print class A method 1, and then it is going to go to this. This in this case, in B case, that means it's going to go to this method, method 2. So it's going to print class A method 1 space, and then class B method 2. And then you don't forget there is one more line here, guys. There is called super. So that's mean then it's going to get back again to super and print class A method 2. Okay. So are you with me with this one? So هنا this is method 1 inside the B. It is going to print all these. So it's going to go to method 1, print class A. Oh, sorry, those two, not the 3. So it is going to go to class A, print method 1, and then using this, that method 2 is going to print class P method 2. And then when it's go to method 2, it is going to face a super, that's in method 2. So it's going to print the class A method 2. So those two lines is going to come out of this sentence. Now, if we call method 2 inside the B, it is going to come here, print class B method 2, and then it's going to face super that method 2. So it's going to get back to the parent and print class A method 2 again. So those two lines is coming from this sentence. So far, so good? Okay, so now we will move to the special case. When we have a reference name is a class A and an object type is a class B. First, before anything, just remind yourself, Z can only access those methods, method 1 and method 2. Okay? But if it's find any method that is also available inside the child, we will go to the child. So now, if I say method 1, Z.method 1, what is going to print? This is important one, guys. It's a very important one. So now, if I go to the method, it's going to go and print in method 1. So what is going to print out? It's going to print class A, method 1, sorry. Class A, method 1, that's it. Ru'a, that's it. What else? Okay, class B. This is the right answer. Bushra, no, we are not gonna, when we call this, and this is the tricky part too. So الآن في نقطتين. لما يكون الobject instance نوع ثاني, first, if there is any method that is override في الchild, you're gonna to read it from the child. هذه أول نقطة. The second point, whenever there is this, الconstructor معمول من class B. That means we will go to the method inside the B, the method 2 from the B. تمام? You get it, Bushra? Okay, Bushra ورؤى. You get this point? So first, we go to method 1, Z that's in method 1, because in method 1 is available inside the class A. Then we print class A method 1 tab. This, whenever we call this, we take a look to the object type. What is the object type? Is a class B. So we go to method 2. So we print class B method 2. And now method 2 inside the B, it is going to call super. So now we will back and print class A method 2. Okay. So those two lines is coming from this sentence. Now if I would like to print in method 2, no, it's different. يا رؤى. طيب الآن المethod 2, are we going to access المethod 2 from class A or class B in this sentence? Yes, عوض وعصام. It's from class B. You're right. احنا لسه قلنا هي تعمل access فقط للي موجود في الريفرنس نيم. ولكن متى ما كان نفس methods, the same methods is already available inside the child, it is going to get it from the child, which is the B. So now it's gonna to go to class B. Inside the class B, it's called super, so it's gonna to print then the class A. Okay. This one you're supposed to try to do it by yourself. I know it's need a little practice. We'll see one more example. This is similar one. So now here we have a calculation class and we have in my calculation class. Inside the calculation we have addition with subtraction, and inside my calculation we have addition. Good. And I need you to notice couples of things. Again, we will see it during the example. So first, inside the main method, so the compiler is going to go and read from here. So we defined a variable A with 20, B with 10, and we're going to print it out. So it's going to straightforward 20 and then dash 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 10. Okay. Then we have a calculation. We create an instance object C1 with a type, a reference name calculation, and an object type calculation. We don't have any problem here. We will go to calculation and we will send the A will be. So what's the output for this line? For addition. So if I have an addition here, so the first line, guys, what's the output of this line? I created from a calculation. So I go here. I already told you now, sorry. So it's going to go to this method. It is going to print the sum equal to 30. Good. Now we're going to move to the second one. I have C1 and I call a subtraction. I send the A and the B, which is the 20 and 10. What's the output of this line, the red one? What's the output of the red one? It has a tricky sense. It has tricky things here. Okay, Awad al-Battal, that's a good job. It's minus 10. I know some people may just get confused because we get here X as 20 and Y as 10. But then we said 10 minus 20. So it's minus 10. Good job. Then we just get to print some lines here. Let's move to the second one. This is not a, it's a straightforward one, which is creating an object C2 with a reference name my calculation, and an object type is my calculation as well. So with addition, it is going to go to addition 1 or addition 2. So what's the output of the addition? Tell me what's the output of this addition. C2, calculation, addition, we're going to send the A and the B. What's the output? 35, good job. Now, what about subtraction? We move to subtraction. So what about subtraction? Minus 10, good. Okay, so now we will back to the tricky case. When we have now a reference name different than the object type. So reference name calculation, that means you can access the method here only. If you have any addition methods here, M5, M2, M whatever, any method inside the child, you cannot access it. Okay, so now I would like to access the addition. C3, try to access the addition. Which addition is going to access? What's the answer of that calculation? This going to give 30 and this is gonna to give 35. Which one? 35 or 30? اوكي 35 ولا 30؟ في صوت موجود ولا بس رؤى اللي عندها المشكلة؟ Yes, so it's gonna to be 30, it is gonna to be 35. And this is the tricky point that we already said. Good job, I'm so proud of you. الممتاز انها وصلت البوينت. ف it's okay, it's already there موجودة بالparent which is the references. لكن it's gonna to check the child. It is gonna to check the object type. If it has it, it's gonna to use it. Okay. Raqad, we already explained it just before. I'll explain it one more time. So if a reference name different than the object type in my calculation, okay, Raqad, are you with me? I'll explain it one more time. So عندنا calculation هي الparent تمام؟ هي reference name. my calculation هي child لكن راح نستخدمها كobject. أول شيء في البداية you ask yourself which method you can access. Only methods اللي موجودة بالreference name which is calculation. So اللي هذه عملت عليها yellow. Okay. So you can only access methods اللي موجودة بالcalculation. لو كان عندنا methods for example اسمها multiplication, division, whatever inside B, you cannot access it. هذا البوينت الأولى. النقطة الثانية whenever you find a method, for example addition, you checked again if the child اللي هي الobject type اللي عملناها my object does it override it. عندها نفس الميثود اللي هي override نفس الsignature exactly. If it's yes, you're gonna to access it from the child. You are not gonna to access it from the parent. Okay, يا رغد. The priority for يوميا بالتالي object type. We call it an object type. It's not a priority. It's backed to الidea اللي شرحناها بالبداية اللي هي dynamic banding. إن هي راح تبدأ من الchild. لكن هنا لأن احنا مستخدمين الريفرنس نيم مختلفة فهو في البداية فقط يعطيك الصلاحية إنك تعمل access للميثودز اللي موجودة في البارنت. Then it's back to نفس الفكرة اللي حق dynamic binding اللي شرحناها بالبداية هنا إنه هو يبدأ من الأصغر. بس الشيء المختلف لما يكون الريفرنس مختلف انك فقط راح يعطيك صلاحيه انك you can access only الميثودز اللي موجوده في البارنت او اللي هي الريفرنس name in this case. Okay. Good. خلينا نكمل. We done with this. بعد كده هنا try to access subtraction بس هذه إلى الميثود أو عفواً إلى الانستنس object C2 so it's gonna to back to subtraction a normal one. Okay. Now we will move to another idea اللي هي we already talked about it before اللي هي class variable. What's the idea of a class variable? الidea اللي حق class variable إن we create a variable that we would like to have all instance object to access the same variable. ممتاز؟ يعني مش each instance object has its own variable. For example لو كان عندنا class اسمه student وكل طالب له الانستنس أنشأنا instance object لكل طالب. ممتاز؟ لكن الآن حنا حابين نعرف عدد الطلاب الكاونتر اللي حق الطلاب. We don't create a counter and we put it inside or related to the instance object. We put it related to the class. Okay. So in this case, we supposed to use a public static variable, and it's going to be static. As long as it's a static, that means you can access it from the class side. للي ذاكر we discussed this في في اللاب when I ask you and only one person figured out why we can use the class name, we put the class name and then we put dot and then the name of the methods, right? Why we was able to do this in the example in the previous meeting? Because the method was static. The same things here. الفاريبل نوعها static, so that means you can access it from the class side or from an instance. And what does make it different? It is going to be one value for all. Yes, exactly. It is going to be one value shared by all instance. You are right, Ahmed. Tamam. So let's see this example. We define the public static counter or count, and here we put it. We put initialization as a 100 instead of 0. Okay. So then we create a constructor. Inside this constructor, we increase the counter and also we get it to print how many counts do we have. We usually don't do this inside the constructor, but we have it here. Okay. So I need you to tell me, guys, I create an instance object C1. A reference type and a type, object type, both of them is counter. It is going to be any output here or nothing. What I'm going to get out from this sentence? What I'm going to get out from this sentence? Legal, illegal, nothing. What I'm going to get? This is the tricky things and beauty of tracing, and it's important to try to practice it, guys. Okay, the tracing, you asking yourself, and you need to ask yourself now, guys. Okay, for those who said nothing. Now we create a C1. Okay, we call it constructor or we invoke the constructor counter. We go to the counter. What is going to happen inside the counter? It is going to increase the counter, so it is going to be 101. Let me use the pen. So it is going to be here 101. And in the same time, there is a print sentence. We don't have a print sentence inside the main, but we have a print sentence inside the constructor, right, guys? So whenever you invoke the constructor counter, that means you back here, you're gonna to increment the count, and it's gonna to be 101, and in the same time, you're gonna to print 101. Okay? So if you think that it's not gonna to print anything, get back to it and try to trace it again. Now we create another instance called C2. What if I would like to now, what's the output of this one? It is going to create another object. Okay, so it's going to be 102. Good job. And then 3. What is going to be? 103. Okay, what about the last sentence? Now, I need you to figure it out this one. Usually what we do, we put, for example, C1 dot counter or count, right? We invoked it using an instance object name, right? But now you figure it out, you see here, I use the class name. And this is what we discussed previously in the previous lab. Why I use the class name? Because the count is static. So this is legal, right? So it's going to print 103. No, Lujan, why it's 103? You have only one, for this class, you have one and only one count. C1, C2, C3, any object you create is accessed the same count. It is going to be 100. All of them see the same amount. When you create another instance object or you access it from the class, all of them see only one count variable. Okay? Clear? So far, so good? Question about this one? Okay, so let's move to the questions. Now, we have two classes, point with test point. Usually, any test in our course, we usually use test. That means it has a main method. Okay, so a point has a private x, public y, and it has one constructor and two methods, feedbacks, and one override, two string methods. Good. Now, let's back to the main. Now I'm talking about a test point. Okay, I'm talking about a test point here. Let's have, okay, a test point. We create, now we don't create here, we declare. I need you to differentiate between declare, create, and initialized. Now I just declare البوينت اللي هي ال P1 instance object from a reference name point. I haven't initialized it yet, okay? And then I declare B2 in this part, declare, and then I created using the new, and then I'm going to initialize it inside the point here. I initialize it inside the constructor, okay? So let's back to the question. Line 6, system.out print line P1 dot ly. If I say P1 dot ly, it is legal or illegal, and why? Okay, so it's illegal. Why? Because we just declare B1. We didn't create it. متى نعمل لها creation؟ لما نعمل new. متى نعمل initialization, which is the third step? When you initialize it, you assign some value to the variable. Okay. What about line 7? B2.x. Can we access B2.x? Can we access B2.x? No, because it's a private. Okay, good. And the last one, or not the last one, the line 8, can we access y from a P2? Yes, it's legal because it's public, so we can access it. Now, the fourth question, it is legal to have both method feedback in a point class. يعني هل ممكن أن في نفس الكلاس can we have two methods with the same name? It is okay or not? And why? Why? That's the most important part is why. Are you sure? it's override يا عوض وأحمد. Yes, Jane, it's overloading. Okay, because it's a different signature, so it's overloading. You can have two methods with the same name, the signature, and in this case they are overloading لأن السيجنتشر حقهم مختلف. ممتاز. Okay. Now we have question 5. And it has a method move. And class dog, which is extend animal, and it has a move, bark, do all. Now, this is what we was talking about في the first part. There is a difference between a reference, a name of the reference, which is the first part, and the type of the object. So, في المثال الأول first, it is going to be animal. Okay, I get back. الصوت الآن رجع. ممتاز. في المثال الأول, in the first example, الانيمال an. Can you hear me now? صوت واضح الآن؟ Okay, good. So بالمثال الأول, the name of reference and type of object are similar, which are الانيمال. المثال الثاني, it is gonna to be similar. A dog, it is gonna to be a name of reference with type of object are a dog. What is different here in the third one? What is the name of the reference? The name of the reference in the last one. Animal. And the type of the object is a dog. Good? Okay. So now we will create an instance object with a type of object and a references is animal, and we tried to call a move. Is this legal or illegal? And what's the output if it's legal? I'll try to do it faster so we cover more questions. We have 2 hours today, you remember? But we still have sheet 3 and 4. Okay, so it is legal, and the output is gonna to animal can move because it's gonna to go here. And can I access the bark here? No, it's gonna to be illegal. Why? Because an is a type and a references of animal, and it's not because an object. Because the reference name is animal, that means it can access only the animal methods. Okay, so this is illegal. We create an instance called D with a dog as a name references and objects as well. And then we call a move, and in this case, it is going to try to search for a move inside a dog. If it has, it's going to use it. So it's going to print a dog can walk and run. And then second sentence, el bark, it is going to print a dog can bark. And after that, do all, it is going to go super move, so that is going to go and print the animal. So the first sentence, this is the move, and this is the bark. Those are 3 coming from the last sentence. So doing all is going to go first to super that move. So it's going to print the animal can move. Then it's going to go to dog can walk, because invoked المove method bark method is gonna to print dog can bark. الآن الtricky part when we having a difference between a reference name والobject type. Now which move we gonna to print now? B dot move. Which move we gonna to print? Are you sure, أو بشرى ولجان? Yes, Raed, you can go. I already mentioned that at the beginning. Okay. Good job, guys. It's gonna to go to a dog. Okay, so it's gonna to go to a dog. Then inside the bark, what are we gonna to do inside the bark? When I said B dot bark, what are we gonna to get out of this one? Yes, you can go, Mariam. I already mentioned that at the beginning. Yes, it's not legal because the bark is not inside. We take a look to the animal, which is a reference here, so it is cannot be accessed from the B. Okay, so now we will move to sheet 3. Before that, anyone has any class, you can leave, okay? It is okay. I already sent an email for you guys that we're gonna to cover 1 more hour instead of the missing lecture yesterday, okay? So sheet 3, they ask us to differentiate it between equal and an equal method. What's the difference between them? What's the difference between equal? Revision is not only for meeting 5. It's for what we have covered so far. Okay, so will equal and an equal methods. What's the difference between them? Okay, Ahmed, equals for reference checking. What about the equals method? Equals used for comparing value itself. Yes, Bushra, اللي هي what we call it the contents. Exactly. It is going to be for the content. So equal for comparing the references, equal methods to compare the contents. Okay. So this one, we already did it during the class. There is only one part that we didn't maybe enough time explanation during the class. So I'll explain it more when we reach to it. So now we create name1. We use the new string, Ahmed. And then we said name2 equal to name1. And we create a new string with the name Ahmed. We call it name3. So here I need you to make sure you notice that this is a print, not print line. Okay. So what's the output for this line? Name1 that equals name3. Name1 that equal name3. So ask yourself, when you say equal, ask yourself, does name1 has the same content as name3? Yes, so it's going to be true. Then in next line, in name1, does it equal to name2? name1 that's equal to name2, true. And I need you to see here, I'm not going to start a new line, it's going to write next to it, because here we don't have a new line. It is going to have a new line after. Okay, so it's going to be true, true. Good. Now we're going to ask about a reference. In name1 equal in name3. False. It has different reference. What about in name1 equal in name2? It's true. Okay. Okay. So far so good. Now we will move to another way to create or declare string with using just a double quotation without using the new keyword. Okay. So now. Okay. So now we create name5 equal to Ahmed, name6 equal to Ahmed, and name4 equal to Ali. System prints name5 that equals name4. What's the output for this line? Doesn't name5 have the same content as 4? It's false. Why? لأن أحمد ما يساوي علي. Okay. Then doesn't name5. Okay, can you stop, guys? I need you just to stop here. Okay, stop writing. I need you to answer for this one as when we ask. So name5 equal to name4. Now what's your answer for this one? Name5 equal name4. In name5 equal to name4. It is going to be false. Okay. Okay. Now, name5 equals to name6. This is going to be true. Ahmed is equal to Ahmed. And the new one. So, in name5 equal to 6. In name5 equal to 6. Does they have the same reference? Okay. It is true. I know some of you may be surprised about this. It is going to be true. When you create a string without using the new string, that's me in name5 and in name6. Only Sarah doesn't have sound, or all of you guys? Can you hear me? Okay, good. So الآن the most important point in this slide is this one, is in the yellow part. In name5 equal 6 is true. Why is it true? Because we didn't use a new string when we declare and initialize the string. We use equal. Okay, you get this point? Question about it? Most of this slide you know, or you know all of it. You did a great job. The things you may don't know about it, or it's little new for some of you, when you're creating a new string without using the new, that means both of them is gonna to point to the same to the same name, so they're gonna to have the same references, so it's gonna to be true. Okay. Yes, Ru'a. If we use a new string, it's gonna to be false. Okay. Now let's see if you understand what we just said. In name1 that's equal in name3. Doesn't name1 have the same content as in name3? True. Okay, so this is going to be true. In name1 that equals in name2. True. It has the same content. In name2, which has Ali, equal to name3, which has Ali. True. We are talking about the content so far. The point now, in name1 equal in name3. Yes, this is false. In name1 equal in name2. And the last one is true. Okay. Okay. Now we have a class in this question number 4 in sheet 3. We have called user. And we have 4 variables. One constructor, which is initialized variable. And then we have 3 methods called equals. Okay. So the question said, it is acceptable to have many equals. We have 3 equals here. It is acceptable to have many equals inside the same class. Yes, as what we answered before, is going to be overloading because it has different signature. One of those class equal override, not overload, one of them override the equal method inside the object. We said already, the equals method coming originally from the object class. One of those are override الميثودز اللي موجودة بالobject class. Which of those? 1, 2, or 3? Which of those methods are overriding the methods inside the object class? 1, 2, or 3? Okay. Awad Ahmed, that's right. The first one is the one that is going to override الميثودز اللي موجودة بالobject. Why? Because it's have the same signature. Okay. So the first one is override من methods inside the object class. The second with third, it is going to be overloading each other. Now, I need you to concentrate with me. How can we write an equals method to override an equal methods اللي موجودة بالobject? And it's important to know the process of how you're doing it. Okay. So, متى ما طلبوا منكم انكم تكتبوا write a method equals, which is going to override in methods that it's coming from an object, we need to do couples of things. Any of you know what's the first one? So this is the method. It is going to be public boolean equal object, and then you put a name. This is always the case. It's not going to be one times boolean, sometimes is integer. No, it's always the same signature because we are overriding the methods اللي موجودة بالclass. تمام? That means it's going to get the argument, it's going to get the object, OBG من نوع object, and it's going to return boolean, true or false. فايش هي فكرتها؟ احنا راح يكون عندنا تو اوبجكت. الاوبجكت اللي هي راح تعمل المناداة راح تاخذ another object as an argument وراح نقارن محتوياتهم. المقارنة راح تكون اعتمادا على السؤال. هم راح يحددوا لكم كيف راح تعملوا المقارنة على أساس تحددوا هل those two objects are equals or not. For example, in this method, what they said, the method should compare all instances. So we supposed to compare all instances. So we have four here, ID, النيم والstatus والlocation. Good. The first step when we would like to create the equal method overriding the equal اللي موجودة في الobject, أول خطوة this one. Can anyone figure out what is this step as? Okay, any other idea? The first step, always if you would like to override equals اللي موجودة في الobject class لازم نعمل casting مثل ما قال رضوي. لازم نعمل casting. Why we would like to do casting? إذا تذكروا إحنا لما يكون عندنا integer و double we do casting, right? Why we do casting? أحمد طيب لما يكون عندنا الأوبجكت من نوع أوبجكت الكلاس عندنا هنا نوعه مختلف اللي هو user. ممتاز؟ فالuser is a different type, so we have to do casting first. كيف نعمل casting؟ نعمل الريفرنس نيم باسم الكلاس which is the user. We create an instance object, whatever it's called, O or BG, whatever you call it, and then you put between two brackets the name of the class, and then you put the name of the object which is here on the top. Okay, so this is the first step. First step is casting. The second step is comparing to make sure everything is equal to and inside each object. So now, can anyone tell me the first things here? This one, ID, I would like to compare two ID. Ahmed, give them a chance. Okay. ID, what is the type of the ID? It is going to be integer. How we can compare two integers? We use equal. So it's going to be equal, and we already creating the O, which is the object. So we need to compare the ID that is coming from the object اللي عاملة invoked, and then we would like to compare it with the object that's already sent as an argument, the OBJ, which is we call it O here. So we call them, are they equal? And then we said equal and. So we need to make sure all the variables are equal. Now, a name, what's the type of the name? And by the way, Ahmed, the name is wrong, what you're doing there. So a name, how we can compare a name? Okay. عوض نوعه string. So how can we compare a string? Exactly. We use an equal method. We compare string using an equal method. Okay. Then the status, we ask ourselves, what's the type of status? Is Boolean. How we compare Boolean is gonna to be equal. A location, what's the type of the location? Is char. How we can compare a char? Using equal or equal method. Okay. Are we gonna to use the equal method or equal equal? We're gonna to use the equal equal. Sure. Not the equal method. اللي لسه, if you're not sure about it, please try to review this one more time, okay? It is important. الستيب الأولى to create the equal override the equal method casting. Step 2, we do step 2 we do comparing between equals, النame والstatus والlocation all in the same way and depending on their type, okay? So sheet 4. Okay, sheet 4. The first question, sheet 4 has 2 questions, question 1 and question 2, but they're similar. So we'll cover question 1 and question 2. You can check it out. Okay. We will just take a 5 minutes break and then we'll be back. Okay, doing sheet 4. Don't go anywhere. On with sheet 4. Can you hear me and see the slides? This is the last part in our meeting today. Okay, good. So we have a class called robot, and we have a child class called the color robot, and then we have a test class, which is a test robot. It has a main method. Okay. Now, we have a robot, we have 3 variables, which are protected integer, protected string name, protected static اللي هي الcounter. We have 2 constructor, a robot والrobot, and then we override 2 string. The child, it has only 1 variable اللي هي protected string color, and we have nothing inside the main so far. Okay, so now they put some question for you. It's not a general question. I mean, you're not supposed to answer it from general. They ask you, and this is important to notice when you are answering. They said extract the word from the code. Okay. An accessor method. Is there any accessor methods here in this code? I'm going to explain it if you don't remember it or you don't know it. Do you know what's accessor? Okay, the accessor method, the method is that has return value. Okay, like getter. Getter is an example, ya Ahmed. Okay, so getter is an example, but not always getter. Any method is that has a return. Okay. So which method here has a return? Yes, Alsayoud. It is going to be 2 string is accessor. الميوتر من اسمها muter, it's not going to do anything. That means the muter method, the method that doesn't have any return, is just going to have an argument. Do you have an example? Do we have an example here for a muter method? No, Lujan, it's not about changing. It's about الميوتر هي الميثودز اللي تاخذ argument but it's not going to return anything. No, the robot here is a constructor. So they are not a type of muter. A sitter, yes, but they ask you here, that's why I emphasize it at the beginning. They ask you to extract the word. So ايش راح يكون هنا الجواب? So what is going to be the answer? Is there any methods? Yes, nothing. So we're supposed to put not found. Not sitter. It's not only sitter. It could be any method that it doesn't have a return. It's not only a sitter. Okay. So an example of a primitive data. Example of a primitive data. A primitive data type. Sorry, they didn't say the primitive data a name of variable. They said primitive data type. So you're supposed to put a data type. And this is important to read the question carefully. Integer. A references data type. No, integer يا رغد is not the right answer. Int here. We don't have integer. Integer actually is a references. يا رغد. Int is a primitive. Example of a references data type is string, right? Class variable. Class variable, an example of class variable. That's okay, Rad. The class variable. Class variable, we just explain it on sheet 2. Variable. Robot here is a constructor, right? El counter. El counter is the class variable. Okay. An access modifier that's allowing member to access anywhere. ايش هو الموديفاير that allow all members to be accessed anywhere? Public, you're right. And then a modifier that allow members to be accessed in a package level. On package level. No, the private عوض it's gonna to be accessed only within the same class. The protected. Okay, the protected. An access modifier that's allowing member to access within its class only. Again, you need to make sure you read the question carefully. Extract the word. Extract the word, guys. Not found. Thank you, Isam. Not found. I know some of you is just getting so excited. They said, okay, we know it's a private. Yes, it's a private, but it's actually is not found because they said extract the word من الcode. Okay. So what's the relationships between a robot and a color robot? It's inheritance relationships. And what's the keywords that we're going to use? اللي هي الextents. Well, relationship is our relationship. Okay. How many constructor do we have here? We have 2 constructor. This one and this. What's the difference between them? The first one has 0 arguments and the second one has 2 arguments. It is allowed, yes, it's allowed to have 2 constructor. Each is going to do having different implementation inside it. Okay. That means it's going to have its unique set of arguments. So the first one doesn't have any argument. The second one have 2 arguments. Okay. It's important to know how we write الجيتر والستر for any attribute. For example, الاتtribute now here is الX. The first question we ask ourselves about it is what's the type? It is going to be integer. That means الgetter is going to return integer. And a setter is going to get an argument as an integer. So this is almost similar in most cases. This is a general way to write الgetter with setter. So الgetter here, we put a type. This is going to be a change. And then you put a name. It could get an X, whatever name. And then a return. And an X, an Y, a Z, whatever you have. A setter is going to be void. You put a setter. And then you have one argument in this case. That's usually in most of the cases, you have one argument. So far, like in the example we have one argument. And I need you to do a favor using, like during the exam or homework, don't use the same name. So you see here, they use AX as an argument and a variable is X. They don't set X and X. If you're using X here, you have to put this, okay? You have to put this dot to differentiate it between this and X here inside the class, and an X is coming from an argument. Okay, so you need to make sure to make your life easier and make sure you don't get confused. Use different name, okay, to make it easier. Okay, now it's something I explained in sheet 2. How you can access and print الفاليو من الكاونتر outside الكلاس. كيف ان احنا لما يكون عندنا class variable كيف ممكن ان احنا نعمل لها access? How can we access it? Now we would like to access the counter. What we said, the counter is a class variable. أنا أتكلم, I'm talking about this here. How can I access this one? No, not using الgetter or setter. Not using الgetter at all. It is not a private. It's a class variable. The class name, that's إيش. ممتاز, good. So robot, the class name, that's الcounter. This is the first way to do it. This is the first way to do it. You put the class name robot dot counter. Good. So this is the first way. Who can give me the second way to access the counter? Which is the second way to access the counter? Either use the class name dot counter or no, you cannot do super. It's super, and this you use it inside the class. They said outside the class here. El super, with this, you can use them inside the classes only. لا, without not using the constructor. Yes, yeah, creating the object. Then what? You are in the right route, Isam. Then what are we supposed to do after creating an object? We creating an object, and then let's assume I create robot object 1. No, we don't use the getter. Object 1, I create robot object 1 equal to new. Then I said A equal to counter. That's right. إجابة عصام is the right one. So this is how we can do it. We put a robot, we create an instance object, for example, and this what he wrote, A equal to a new robot, and then after that you use the counter, put A dot counter. So either you said the robot.counter or a.counter, where a is an instance object with a type robot. Okay? So this is what they're doing here. So either you're creating an object or you're using the class name. Okay? Either you're using an object or the class name. Okay? Question about this one? Clear? Move. So now they ask us to create a zero argument constructor, but for who? For the color robot. The color robot, how we can create a zero argument constructor? They give you an instruction how we can do it. They said invoked it invoked it with using super class with a zero argument constructor. So when we call a super, okay, when we call a super, you're right, Lujane, but then what we have to suppose have it inside, we supposed to use a super and plus something. We need to declare the color as well. The color, we're supposed to initialize it with the default. What's the default for the color? What we supposed to put the default value for the color? Yes, the type is string. So what's the default value? Null. Good. So we create a constructor color robot. We invoked calling a super. So this is gonna to call this constructor. So it's going to initialize the X will Y when name with a default value. In addition to that, we still having the color, which is haven't initialized yet. So we're going to initialize it with a null. Okay. Right الجيتر الستر method حق الcolor هذه نفس اللي عملناها. We just did it for the X, but now the color is a string. So it is going to return. It is going to return string and it's going to get string as an argument. Okay, and then return the color and then we assign the color as well. Okay. Now they ask you to do override for toString and then an equal. I told you how many times the same question have been repeated and again and again. It is important to know how to override toString with equal methods that it's coming from an object. Okay. Now they said override toString method in order to return string responsible for the color robot. It should invoke a super class. Notice that a super class اللي هي robot already has its own override toString. And it's gonna to print the X will Y will name. Good. So what we are missing, we already having the X will Y will name. We're done with it. What we still haven't done, the color. So what are we gonna to do? We're gonna to say toString, and then we call super toString. So this is gonna to take care of the X will Y will name. يعني راح تجيب لنا ال X will Y will name. And then we need to add the color because it haven't been covered yet. Okay. Now, the last part here, how we override the equal. Override the object equals. How we can do it? Do you remember listed when we would like to override the equals? Can anyone list it first? What we can do, what we have to do, I mean. Casting, good. The second step. The first step, casting, والsecond step, checking the value. So, الobject من نوع الobject, OBJ. We would like to cast it to fit with our class, which is the color robot. So this is the first step, which is the casting. The second step, we would like to make sure the object that creating the object has the same variable as the new one. What is the variable in the color robot? Return. It is going to return true right away, Lujan. No, it's going to do some testing here. What is going to test? Behind this blue box, what is going to test? It's just going to check the value. Which value we would like to check? The color. How we can check the color? We ask ourselves. It is string. So how can we check a string? How can we check a string? Using the equal method. So we put the color that equals, and then the method, the instance object we just created is cr.color. Okay? Question? Any question about this part? Yes, no, maybe? I believe. Okay. Question or no? Should we move? Okay, so let's finish the class revision, then we will take care of the general questions. Okay, so now question 17. Declare and create an array of 2 elements of robot class. What they ask us to do, we're having a robot class. This is a robot class, and we would like to create an array. Can anyone write the sentence with the 2 elements? How can we do this? Can you write it down? Create an array of 2 elements of robot class. Okay, so it is gonna to be robot, then brackets, you name it whatever you put any name, okay, and then new, and then with a type robot, okay, because we would like to create an array with a type robot, okay, so, and it's going to have 2 elements at the end. Good. How we can, so this is the declaration, the first part, this is the declaration, and the second part is a creation where we have the new. Can anyone tell me how we can fill the first element? How can we fill the first element? You already have the creation and declaration. How can we fill the first elements in the array? Yes, Lujan. Robot 0. Qadir, al-add, we use it for an array list. 0 equal to, and in this time, and in this time only, we just create the new robot as an instance. Okay. What about the second object? It is going to be similar, but in this case, we call a constructor that it has more than 1 argument, and we assigned whatever we would like to assign, where x and y are integer. They didn't give us an instruction what we're supposed to send to it. Okay, so the last things here. How can we print out the array contents? How can we print it out? We use a method that's already, yes, we can do loop, but which methods we get to use to doing printing? To print all the contents of the instance objects inside this array list. Yes, we can use loop, we can use for each, but my question was about which methods we get to use, which is a toString. In this example, they just use it without a loop because we just have 2 elements. But my question about which method we're gonna to use, we're gonna to use toString. toString is gonna to print all the elements or all the variables inside the object. Okay. And this is the end of the sheet 4. Actually, there is one more question, which is a question 2, but is similar to this one. And we will cover sheets 1, which is implementation, DRang. Maybe next lab together we will implement it on. Okay. Any question? Any question about the slides? Guys, but we have to cover missing class from yesterday vacation. فحتى الشيت 1 I believe we will need الآن حنا قطينا 1 hour. We may need like half an hour or so in addition to lab. So depending ايش قديش راح يكون طول المعمل. لو كان طويل احتمال ناخذ half an hour extra to cover الشيت 1. Okay. If you don't have a question, you can leave. I open a mic, so if you would like to ask a question, you can. If you have a question, you can ask me. Anything's personal about the absent or so on, just email me, guys, okay?
طيب
يعني أي شيء خاص ممكن ترسلوا لي على الإيميل.
السلام عليكم دكتورة.
all sheets are available في ال LMS. الشيتس كلها اللي الآن احنا ناقشناها كلها موجودة في ال LMS. بالإضافة لأنها موجودة بالشير فولدر اللي أرسلت لكم هو على الإيميل.
طيب ممكن أسأل
Yes,
دكتورة؟
التمارين كلها موجودة بال LMS. المايك is open if you have any question.
طيب ممكن أسأل دكتورة؟ السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم.
رغد, will the final be similar? I have not really, I don't know exactly كيف راح يكون الفاينل, بس الأقرب إنه هو راح يكون something similar. أنتم ممكن توجدوا نماذج وتشوفوا كيف هي الطريقة للفاينل. اللي أقدر أقول لكم إن الكونتنت اللي مغطاية بالشيتس it's important. يعني الأفكار فيها لا ما أسمعكم لحظة بس. طيب تفضلوا. سوري كان الصوت عندي مطفى من هنا.
طيب أنا عندي سؤال دكتورة.
تفضل.
احنا بس النهارده ما اتكلمناش عن جزئية الكومبوزيشن والاجريجيشن ولسه تقريبا عندي confusing فيها.
الكومبوزيشن والاجريجيشن لحق ايش؟
يعني احنا اول ما بدأنا في chapter 5 او الميتنج 5 ما بنتكلم على الانهيرتنس في جزئيتين في البداية اللي هما الاجريجيشن والكومبوزيشن.
طيب
هل دول مهمين اركز عليهم ولا انا تركيزي يكون الاكبر على الانهيرتنس؟
بالميتنج 5 خليني ارجع اشوف الميتنج 5. انا ما اقدر اقول لك ان في جزء اهم من جزء لان حقيقة I have no idea about the questions. بس الميتنج 5
ميتنج 5 في السلايد نمبر 4 اللي هو في عندنا has a relationship.
yes. هي ما تقدر تعمل skip to anything، بس ان هي ما في الى الان، يعني ما كان inside نفس الميتنج ما في كثير examples ولا حتى الريفيجن. but I cannot tell you ان هي مهمة ولا مش مهمة. it's your call، انت تركز عليها ولا لا.
لان انا الفكره بتاعتهم برضو لسه مش واصله ليا، لان انا الانهيرتنس اشوف ان هي بتغطي على الجزئيات بتاعت الكومبوزيشن والاجريجيشن. يمكن انا عندي خطأ معين في فهمي للجزئيه دي. يعني انا في الشغل العملي اللي بستخدمه الانهيرتنس.
طيب
الكومبوزيشن والاجريجيشن.
الان هي الاجريجيشن والبوزيشن مش هي مش نفس هي العلاقة is a relationships، هي علاقة مختلفة. يعني انت ما راح تجمع بينهم، تمام؟ يعني اللي هي الاجريجيشن والكومبوزيشن ما راح تكون لما تعمل الانهيرتنس بلس 2، يعني انت ما راح تعمل انهيرتنس وبعد كذا راح تعمل عليها الكومبوزيشن او الاجريجيشن. في المثال اللي عندنا اتليست يعني اللي موجود عندنا بالميتنج 5 ان هي مفصولين، يعني اما انك راح تستخدم الاجريجيشن والكومبوزيشن او الانهيرتنس، فهنا ما راح يكون في صحة لاعتقادك ان الانهيرتنس راح تغطي عليها، لانك اما تستخدم الانهيرتنس او تستخدم الاجريجيشن والكومبوزيشن.
تمام. انا بس كان سؤالي في ان مثلا مثال من الريال لايف، انا استخدم دول امتى واستخدم يعني الانهيرتنس انا مش هتكلم فيه لان انا عارف الجزئيه بتاعته، لكن الكومبوزيشن والاجريجيشن مثال لتوضيح استخدمهم امتى. يعني انا كل شيء بدرسه المفروض ان انا بطبقه في الحياه العمليه، ابقى فاهم امتى انا استخدم الكونسبت ده، لان
ممتاز.
انا بشتغل بايدي، يعني انا بدخل اكتب كود بايدي.
اوكي ممتاز. الان الانهيرتنس متى نستخدمها؟ لما يكون شيء جزء وشيء كل، تمام؟ لما يكون عندك فور اكزامبل بيرسون وراح يكون من عنده ستاف وستودنت، الستودنت والستاف راح يكونوا انهيرتنس من البيرسون. جود. خليني اعمل لك شيرنج على اللي موجود بالسلايد. we are here. المثال اللي حق الاجريجيشن مثلا متى تقدر تستخدمها؟ لما يكون عندك مثال الادرس مع الستودنت مش علاقته انهيرتنس، هو الادرس ليس جزء من الطالب، هو ما راح يعمل يرث صفات الطالب. الادرس العنوان ما يرث صفات الطالب. انت راح تستخدم الادرس as a part كجزء موجود داخل الستودنت، لكن الادرس لانها تحتوي اكثر من جزء، في المثال اللي عندنا هنا الادرس ممكن يحتوي اسم الشارع، الزيب كود، الحي، المدينه، whatever. فالادرس ممكن يكون 5 to 6 lines. فانت بدل ما تحط هذه ال5 lines داخل الستودنت وهي ما لها علاقه حقيقه بالستودنت، انت تعملها كلاس لوحدها. لكن الان ايش العلاقه بين الادرس والستودنت؟ الادرس ما يرث من الستودنت، ما في علاقه بين الادرس والستودنت وراثيه، مش مثل البيرسون والستودنت. لكن العلاقه هنا ان الادرس راح يستخدم كمتغير داخل الستودنت. وضحت معك؟ تمام. فانت الان الادرس بدل ما تكتبها تشوفها انت هنا في المثال برايفت ادرس من نوع الادرس، بدل ما تكتب الادرس ال5 لاينز وتخليها داخل الستودنت، انت تخليها في باكج مفصوله وبعد كذا تستخدمها. المثال الثاني ممكن تكون ارقام تليفونات. الشخص ممكن يكون عنده اكثر من رقم تليفون، رقم البيت، رقم جوال، رقم جانبي. فانت بدل ما تحط داخل الستودنت 3 4 5 نمبرز وتكون في هذه الحاله كثير طويله، تعمل كلاس خاص بالتليفونز وبعد كذا تستخدم الببليك كلاس فون as a data type، تعمل منها متغير وبعد كذا فقط تناديها. وضحت هذه الفكرة؟
وضحت يا دكتورة، ألف ألف شكر، وآسف لو كنت بقى عامل إزعاج النهاردة.
وضحت الفكرة هنا ولا لا؟
لا وضحت تمام.
وضحت هذه الفكرة؟
هي وضحت لأن هنا في السلايد اللي حضرتك عملت لها شير، أنا لما عيني جت على برايفت أدرس وملهاش علاقة بمسألة الإكستند، وضحت الفكرة اللي كانت ملخبطاني.
تمام، أوكي؟
ألف ألف شكر يا دكتور.
العفو. في سؤال ثاني؟
دكتورة؟
Yes you can leave، اللي حابين يطلعوا. تفضلي.
دكتورة تسمحي لي؟ زاد فضلك.
أيوة،
المعذرة منك، بالنسبة للثلاثاء اللي فات أرسلت لك قلت لك إنه ما كان عندي نت، عشان كذا ما قدرت أدخل المحاضرة، بس حبيت أبلغك عشان مو تهاون أو إهمال مني.
بس ارسلي لي ايميل على اساس انا الاشياء انت تقولي لي واسماء انا انسى، فارسلي لي ايميل على اساس لو في شيء ممكن ان احنا نتواصل بالايميل.
إن شاء الله بإذن الله عزيزتي، مشكورة، يعطيك العافية.
العفو إيمان. Another question or we're done? اوكي، يعطيكم العافية ونشوفكم ان شاء الله الاسبوع الجاي، و good luck في الاكزام. راح يكون ان شاء الله الكويز راح يكون عندكم الخميس، ف good luck.
ألف شكر يا دكتور على مجهودك معنا.
العفو.